Alright, so thus far we've been working on quite a few straight sword basics, and last time we connected them to a small combo. So moving forward, I'll start demonstrating and explaining a small form I choreographed, and we'll take it combo by combo, movement by movement, and then discuss how to properly execute each technique and how to properly connect them together. Alright, so this first one is going to start in the middle of the form I've choreographed, and first I'll demonstrate it both facing this way and the way, and then afterwards we'll begin to look at how to perform the entirety of the combo. Alright, so first slowly. Right, and then once more, isn't that? Alright, so as we progress through this combo, alright, I want you to remember that first we're going to take it step by step. Our focus is to complete each movement correctly. Not quickly, not with power, but technically correct, alright? Afterwards, after you feel that you can do each movement correctly in sequence, then you can start thinking about the different ways I mentioned about how to connect these basics together, alright? So, starting from the beginning, alright? So you notice we started in the middle of the form, not really the beginning. And that's just so that we can go over some movements that really get you into the meat of straight sword. Alright, so we're just going to start here. Don't worry about how we got there. Alright, we start with the basic we learned last time. Flower, back, turning over. Afterwards, we're going to do flower, point, come back, extend into bow stance, poke. Alright, the entirety of the combo, or those couple movements, takes just a few seconds, but you know, once we explain it and understand it, we see that there's so much more. Alright, so quickly reviewing what we learned in the last video. Alright, from here, flower into your body, opening out. This is nothing new. If you need help, you can reference the last video. The next step is our regular flower extending into point. Alright, and you'll notice when I extend in the point, both my arms come out and the bottom of the straight sword here will come out to and be pressed into my forearm, and the tip of the sword is pointed downwards. Okay, all of my power is focused at the tip of my sword. Alright, don't be forcing this movement down, going farther than your flexibility. You only want to go as far as you can in a very smooth and relaxed motion. Alright, so flower back, behind, open, flower to extend. Alright, so from extend, we're going to do our next two movements is pull back. Alright, see here, my straight sword comes horizontal and I do not rest it anywhere on my arm. Alright, it's very easy to lose control, let it fall, or put too much power and hit yourself. Alright, so we always want to remain in control of our weapon, because the straight sword is double-sided, double-bladed, meaning that it doesn't matter how you hold it. If either side makes contact, you'll cut yourself. You would cut yourself. Right? So when we pull back, it comes in flat. You see it's away from my arm. All right. Next, I extend into our poke. Excuse me. Here. All right. And things to note is as I extend, my sword remains flat, parallel to the ground, extending out, power at the end. And while my right arm is extending, my left hand in my sword fingers is extending simultaneously. And it's coming up here a little bit above my shoulder, a little bit above my right arm, my sword arm. Alright? So, again, our focus is to complete each of these movements correctly. Okay? Again, we don't need speed, we don't need power. Alright? Our focus is to just have a feeling of how each technique should be performed and do so smoothly. Once you correctly execute techniques, speed and power will follow. Alright? So, we'll go all the way through, fall it back, behind, open, flower into point. Go back, extend. Alright? So, now that I've discussed what to do with our arms, right? I'll take some time to discuss our legs. All right, there's a few different ways to go about it, but how we're going to go through it is a good way to start practicing it. All right, so here we're not in any specific, not in a half bow stance or a low bow stance. Okay, just weight on the forward leg. All right, like in the last video, together, open. Now here, when we do point, there are two main variations of this. One is feet together here, extend back. The other one is knee up, extend back. Alright, neither one's better than the other. Alright, for beginners, I recommend just feet together. If you're comfortable balancing on one leg, and you can keep the raised leg in a good definition, now go ahead and practice this. If you just want to focus on your sword, just hit a nice feet together. When you open back, just sink into your horse stance, and as you extend into your bow stance. Alright? So, whether you choose this feet together or this knee up, stepping back, alright, do the horse stance to the best of your ability, and notice the timing as I switch to my bow stance. Alright, so before I had mentioned the coordination in my arms, hitting the end simultaneously. Here we also want to focus our leg, our back leg. Alright, it'll give us a lot of thrust, power from the back. The extension happens in accordance with my two arms. Alright, the legs are very powerful muscles. Alright, using them in this way would allow our sword to drive through quicker and stronger. Alright, again, you don't need to worry about power. Just worry about your coordination from here. 1, 2, 3, all at the same time. And focus on that coordination. As you become stronger, your stances become more stable. Please go ahead and try one. More power, more speed. Alright? However, paramount is that coordination. Right? Now, we got up to this extended poke. Alright? I'll go over the next few steps that should be very familiar from our last video. Alright, so from here, our extension will come up, circle inside, extend, circle back over, extend our left hand, and we're standing bow, or feet together standing. Alright, I'll do it one more time. From here, come up, circle inside, extend poke, circle back, extend the left hand, open our poke, and then we'll end in that pose. Alright, so when you come into feet together, your sword hand will come up. Okay, a good way to measure yourself, to know that your sword is straight above you is if you were to look forward, your arm, your raised arm, should be behind your ear, roughly behind your ear, okay? Not too far back, but not too far in front, okay? Just right there, right behind the edge of your ear, right? If you have this alignment, you know you're pretty much straight up, okay? Then we'll step in, circle to our bellies, extend the left hand, extend our poke. One more time. Come up, right hand hits above the ear. One, circle in, next to our bellies. Extend this arm, poke. Alright? So that's the path of our sword arm. Alright? For our left hand, it'll start by mirroring our sword arm. It'll come, as our sword arm comes up, the left arm will come down. And then as we circle, our left hand is raising, and it'll hit the extension as our sword comes next to our tummy. Right? For beginners, I recommend keeping it maybe a few inches away from your tummy. Alright? If you are a little bit more proficient, if you can keep your blade flat, go ahead and press it against your stomach. Alright? This is a technique you have to be careful with because again, our sword is double-sided. Alright? Even if it's not sharp, we still have to respect our weapon as it's meant to be used and handle it accordingly. So you can press it here, okay? Being sure to be comfortable with it such that the blade, the flat of the blade presses against you. And then as we extend our sword arm, our left hand comes here to support, and it'll finish coming in as our right hand completes its extension. Alright, so watching the two arms again. Left arm down, right arm up, turn over, circle up, step out, poke. Alright, so all the while we're performing our sword, okay, we're focusing the power in our hands, right? Very rarely, almost never, do you see us exerting power like this, scrunching it up in our shoulders. Because what that means is you're storing power here and it's not reaching your sword, it's not reaching your hand. Okay? From here, there's very, very, very little you can do to effect any kind of martial arts. Alright? So always remember to stay relaxed. Alright? And you'll notice that even as I raise my sword, I don't raise my shoulder. It's just my sword hand coming all the way up. Circle, extending down. As I poke, shoulder, arm, everything stays flat. Alright? I was instructed and told very often that my neck wants to remain visible. Right? If I'm able to picture myself doing my form, I should be able to see my neck. Because if your shoulders are hunched, you can't see your neck. Right? For me, that helped a lot in bringing my shoulders down, allowing these muscles to relax, allowing my power to flow through and reach my arms, my hands, my fingers. Alright? So, now that we've discussed the hands, okay, we'll go over the legs. So stepping over, go ahead and just bring your feet together. Alright? Turn over the left leg, bring the right leg in. Okay, getting this nice standing, and simply extend into your full poke. Alright? Now, just like we learned in the past videos, moving from here, palm coming outside, circle down, extend to this other put together poke. Alright? So, moving from here, through this horse stance, circle, left arm following, extending, next, okay, again, 1, 2, legs are 3, coming to our end simultaneously, all together, alright? So, we've covered a lot of this combo, alright? We got about halfway, and we talked a lot about it. You know, so as we're progressing, alright, you're taking each movement individually, alright, moving in accordance to the basics we've referenced in the last video, as well as the things I pointed out in this video. Alright, you should be able to have something slow without too much power that looks a little bit like that. Alright, so now that I've shown you slowly, kind of step by step, how we got up to this standing position, alright, I'll show you one time more quickly at about closer to my fastest speed, so what it could be. Alright, notice that besides the speed and power, what I focus on is keeping my technique clean and clear. Okay, you never see my sword coming out at weird angles. Every time I extend, my sword comes out flat. My two arms will always move together, either in opposition or mirroring each other. Alright, it doesn't matter how much speed or power I add into this combo. Alright, I am able to keep these principles, these important factors with me. Okay, so I'll start here. And I'll do it one more time, starting at the back. So now we'll start looking at that second half. Alright? So just to see it one more time. We're out here. We'll flower out, cut, come down, follow our sword forward, uppercut back, and come out chopping with our sword into a high cat stance. Alright? So that second movement, or third movement, come down, forward. We haven't reviewed, but so we'll take some time to do that now. All right. So in this motion, we start out with this cut, extending out, and our sword will come here. You see my arm is twisted, and my sword is flat. All right. So as we're practicing this movement, the thought we want to have is the sword stays flat, but it untwists as we lift it up, right? So one time, it stays flat and it just untwists. See, what I'm not doing is doing this big circle. Or if we just look at my wrist, we try to keep it in one place as much as possible, right? Keeping it flat. So just go ahead and practice that a little bit, turning, twisting your arm, and untwisting it to try and get a feel for that motion. Alright, so when we come in the combo, alright, our sword is twisted out. We lift our arm. See, I'm lifting it, but the sword completes its rotation while it's mostly completely flat. Alright, so it's not an easy motion to do, especially if you have a lot of stiffness here in your shoulder, because your body will move through all those places, right? So just do it to the best of your ability, and the more you do it, right, the looser your body will get as it becomes more accustomed to that twisting motion. All right? So again, just focus on keeping the tip of your straight sword forward and untwisting it while keeping your sword, your wrist in one place as much as possible. Alright, so now we'll go back to the beginning of the combo, leading up to that motion, that movement that we just went over, and then we'll go ahead and review all of that together, and then we'll move into the end of the combo. Alright, so starting from here, our feet together extend. Alright, the sword hand is just going to complete our flower, and it'll end here in front. Then we'll cut downwards and come up towards, cut downwards, and then you'll see my sword will point forward into this L, and it'll keep coming back so that it comes parallel to the ground. Right? Important to note is after I cut and I'm coming up, my palm twists out, and as it comes forward, my palm stays faced out. And then as I move forward, this is when my arm begins to untwist. Right? So we're just going to focus on the sword hand to start, and then we'll worry about our footwork and our left hand and our stances, all of that afterwards. Okay? So this flower, normal flower. Then from here, this is a really comfortable place to hold your sword. After you finish your flower, okay, if it's nice and relaxed, it's going to end up back where it started. Then from here, you're just leading with the blade. Okay, it is a cut. Okay, extend your elbow, flick your wrist out so that there's power along your blade, the entirety of your blade. Nice, easy cut. All right. Cut, and then let the circle follow up. And then as your arm comes forward, let your sword fall. Okay? You just let your sword fall, it'll fall into the position it wants to be in, and you just let it keep going so that it comes back to this flat position, and we untwist it out. Alright? So, this motion, while you're trying to get your alignment and everything, you might feel really tense. Okay, it's important though that you just keep yourself relaxed. Again, shoulder down. Okay, and following the movement of your body. As you drop your arm, your sword will naturally follow into that extension for the cut. It'll come up, and as it comes up, your sword, it's heavy. It'll come down by itself. Okay. Then you're suddenly leading with your tip. Leading with your tip out. Keep leading with your tip out. And driving forward. Alright? So that's our sword hand. Okay? So like I've mentioned repeatedly in these videos, it's like there are no movements we force or that are unnatural. They might feel weird just because we're not used to moving in those directions, but our body will do it just fine, and the more you do it, the more you'll find that your body is able to do it. Right? So there's nothing we're forcing. We drop our arm, and that drop, if we want to add power or speed, we just accelerate through the same motion. Coming up, it's the same thing. By the time we get here, assuming I'm holding my sword, it's like your sword is moving, it'll move forward and fall by itself. You don't fight that motion, that natural motion of the sword wanting to fall. You just guide it so that your sword is extending out. And of course, because your arm is twisted, what does it want to do? It wants to untwist. That's a very natural motion. Alright? So the difficulty in this movement is just like how quickly everything falls together. It's not something you can do step by step, very rigidly, very easily, but it's something you have to just train your awareness so that you're hitting each of those points while we're moving. Alright? So after you practice your sword hand, flower, cut, sword falling into the ground, extending into untwist. Right? Now let's look at our left hand. As we do this flower, okay, our left hand is here supporting against our right. As our right hand comes down, we'll let our left hand come up, it'll stay here to meet with our right hand, and it'll just stay here, not really doing too much. Right? For this motion, all of the focus is on the sword and how the sword is moving. So I'll just come up, meet briefly, then it'll extend back out as the sword keeps moving. Right? So as long as your left hand has definition, you're using your sword fingers. When you extend, your elbow is straight. That's all you really need to worry about. Okay? Now, for the stances. All right. Earlier when I was demonstrating, I went into a full drop stance, then slowly converted it to the opposite bow stance. All right. Now, if you're able to do a full drop stance, that's great. If not, you can go as low as you can, trying to push into your bow, or you could just go into this half bow and try and transition to this half horse stance, into this half bow again. All right. Whatever stance you choose, how high or how low you are, all right, you want to think about a flow. It's like a wave. See, you're following, your sword is coming here, dropping in front of you on your left side, coming out to your right, and you're following it, right? And again, this is a smooth motion. So instead of having this jagged switching of stances, right, it's very flowing. It changes slowly from this left side bend into our middle, pushing out into our right. Right? As long as you kind of have that flow from left to right, then you can consider yourself to be understanding this technique well. All right? As you're able to do the full drop stance, flow into the opposite bow stance, then you can that's probably the most ideal or most advanced way to do it. And the smoother you do it, the better you can execute it. Then it's a good goal to continually strive for. Alright? So, as long as you can move from left side to right side, okay, very smoothly, following the path of your sword, following the movement of your sword, letting your sword pull you, right? That's what you're aiming for. You have to, it'll be difficult in the beginning, but the more you practice it, the more you develop your awareness of your entire body in connection with the sword, then the better you will be able to follow through with this motion. Alright? So, that's the stances. The last thing I'll cover for this set of movements is our footwork, okay? Our steps we take. The easiest one to do that I'll recommend for beginners is after you flower, you're pointed outside, you take left step back, right step back, and flow downwards. Alright? So, they're very defined, okay? Left step, right step, okay? And if you look at our timing, flower, left step will come with our cut, and then as we're lifting our sword, you let your and it comes here, your right leg will pass through your feet together and extend as your sword falls down, and now you're ready to move left to right, right? So these two steps that are very well defined. First, the left step matching with the cut, and as the sword raises, the right step passes the left leg and places down as our sword falls in front of us and is getting ready to untwist forward. Right? So, after your sword movement, is fine. You add the left arm, and then you're able to add this high stance or this low stance, flowing from left to right. Okay, you can begin to give definition to your steps. 1, 2, open, fall, 3, down, open, out. All right. So if you can hit those 2 steps at those 2 timings, then you should feel that your body and your sword are moving in the best way they can, right? If you're at an intermediate or at an advanced level, you might find that step past step is too slow, right? And it doesn't allow you to effectively complete the movement. So a lot of people, as they begin developing speed, will have this skip, which is just 1, 2, where it's not so much a step past step, it's jump past step. All right, the difference is very, very subtle, but as you're trying to increase speed, you may find yourself performing this step more often, not in just this movement, but various other movements, just because it does allow for your lower body to accommodate the speeds in your upper body. All right? So if you feel like you're ready to complete the movement a little bit faster, you can find that you lean back, and then rather than holding your weight here on the left, you let your weight fall over it, and you just brace yourself with the right leg. Right? And then the step becomes fall, 1, 2. Right? And as you're able to coordinate fall, cut, and then the right step should have the same timing. Right? Very, very quick step, and it's not something you want to be thinking about. However, if you find yourself doing this, then pay no mind. All right? It's a good thing. And as long as you're doing it, just keep your body straight and you'll be okay. All right. So now that we've come to this untwist, doesn't matter how you got there. You took this drop into the opposite bow, or a half bow through the horse into the half bow. All right. Our next movement will just be our uppercut back. Nothing special, just that uppercut we reviewed in our very, very first video. Uppercut back, and we'll let it settle here in front of us. And as it settles, we'll just follow the sword back into horse stance. Then we'll push it out, leading with our blade, into a chop. Okay? So it's very different from our cut that extends along the blade. Instead, you want to think about the entirety of the blade holding your power. Comes out flat, pushing outside. All right? So, flower back, left hand comes in, move, open to chop. All right? So that's our right hand. Our left hand just comes inside and extends outside together during our chop. All right? The last thing that we'll cover for this movement is the footwork. Right? So while I was demonstrating, I just came into this feet together. All right? Feet together is fine. However, I'll choose to come into this high cat stance. All right? So we just point our toe, then my left foot and right foot are the toes are roughly in line, my big toes, and that's what we call the closed stance, where we cover this middle part of our body by overlapping the left and the right side, and my left toe comes into this strong point, no weight on it, most all of the weight on the right side, right? And that's our high cat stance. So after we finish here, uppercut back, chop, extend, all right? And then I can't say it enough, because it's one of the most important parts, most important things to look out for, is our coordination. one hand, two hand legs, right? As we push up and out, my power extensions all complete at the same time. So you'll notice my arms move from inside to outside. However, my right leg moves from here to here. So in this case, it's roughly the same. So everything is roughly moving at the same speed. All right? There's no need to worry about coming up early in order to hit this stance. All right? Just uppercut back, let your sword fall and into your horse, and start pushing up and out all together. All right? So now that we've reviewed this, I'll show the second half of this combination one more time, and then I'll close it out by doing the entirety of the combination. Okay. So in here, flower, cut back, so fall, moving from left to right, uppercut back, extend. Right? A little bit faster. Flower. 1, 2. Right? Now I'll close it out just like how we started, performing the entire combination, facing both towards and away. Okay? All right, thank you.